Hello and welcome to the July 2020 layout update for the Trent Valley Railway. In this update we'll take a look at the catenary masts for the main line, the work that I've done around installing these catenary masts and building up the foundations around the running lines. We'll look at the Lineside accessories and the tunnel portal that I've started to work on, cutting down the Woodland Scenics tunnel portal mouths so that I can put two together for the spacing that I require. And throughout there'll be some trains running, including this Class 90 Freightliner with DCC sound. So this layout update is a little bit later than usual in the month, but I've been doing little bits and pieces here and there, and I wanted to show you sort of a near enough finished state for most of these bits and pieces that I've been doing over the past month. So we'll first of all get stuck into looking at the work that I've been doing on the catenary masts for the main line. I'm now going to start adding some of the scenery for the main lines and start off with the line side things that I'll be adding. And the first thing I'm going to do here is look at adding in the catenary and the overhead line equipment along the main lines. So I was quite fortunate to notice on Dapol's website a little while ago they had these on offer. So these are the catenary mast packs of 10, where you get some long and short registration arms, and also they had lengths of the catenary wire. So these lengths here are 203 millimeters, so about 20 centimeters, and they come in black. And what I've already done is decided that the length of these that come out the pack are not quite long enough to make this look realistic. So I got the length of 20 centimeters because I'm going to be attaching two together with some short piece in the middle there to connect two of these, and then have it around about sort of 37 to 38 centimeter distance between each of the catenary masts. And what you may have already noticed here is that they come pre-painted, these catenary wires, as black in the pack from Dapol, and I wasn't too quite sure, having looked at pictures and been out on the railway where there is electrification, that these wires are actually black. So I'd previously got some sort of very dark grey spray paint and had to go with that colour, but what I'm thinking now is I'll sort of use hopefully this gunmetal metallic colour to make them a little bit more realistic, as well as then looking at the actual underside of them is then this sort of copper colour where the pantographs would be sort of taking the electricity from the catenary rail. I'm also going to look at probably respraying these catenary masts as well. They come quite weathered from the pack from Dapol, and as this is sort of very modern image, this looks a little bit sort of more authentic, I admit, but I'm going to make this a little bit more new by spraying it in this sort of silver spray paint here. So I've got a few things to do there to make these catenary masts and the wires look how I want them to look for the layout, and then I'll look at getting some of these installed along the main lines. Installing the catenary masts was done over lots of small sessions whilst working on the layout, and because of that I didn't have time to actually film at the end of each of those the work that I did, but I did manage to get some pictures, so I'll talk through the work using the pictures that I've taken here. I started off at the end of the main line, which leads into the container depot, and looked at the spacing that needed to go over the top of the point work leading into the depot, and I set about here spacing the catenary masts either side of that point work as sort of the marker then to carry on for the spacing down the rest of the main line. For each of the catenary masts, these have been spray painted before being installed in the steel colour. I will go back at a later date and just add some colour around the registration arm for the insulation points with a paintbrush, but I'm happy that this now looks a bit more like a new modern installation and fits in with the rest of the layout. The other bit that I've been looking at here is the colour choice for the catenary wire. I've got two sections that I'd spray painted up, one being the copper colour and the other being the black, that is sort of the colour that comes out of the box from Dapol. I'm interested to know what your views are, so do leave a comment on this video about which colour looks better here for the catenary wire. I've then continued to use those two sections of catenary wire to space out the masts down the main line towards the very back of the garage. The reason for doing this is to make sure that when I eventually come back to put in the wires across the full length of the main line, this whole section will then be at tension between each of the masts so that you don't get any sag on the catenary wire, and also it means that the masts themselves won't be pulled to the left or to the right, and they'll sit where they should do in the natural position. So I'm hoping that that will all be sorted for the future, and we'll now take a look at how I've built up the foundations around the bottom of these catenary masts. The centre section of the main lines probably gives the most variety here for the work that I've done around installing these catenary masts and building up the foundations around the running lines. So for all of these I've used small sections of leftover wood, and to fill in basically the gaps to the right heights, I've also used some small sections of balsa wood. Got a pack of that from Hobbycraft, a different millimetre thickness. Cut it down with a hacksaw, and as you'll see here, used different sort of sections and added two bits together so that each of these then has the foundations for the catenary mast up to the same level as the cork underlay sheets that I've put down here on the main running lines. So this area now with the catenary masts are all set out along the running lines past the container depot, and down here we've got the class 90, and you'll see that there's probably about a millimetre plus gap that will make it look like it's touching the catenary wire, but I've made sure that the distance all the way along the main running line is enough for it not to snag in the catenary wire for all of the rolling stock that I've got with a pantograph. So one of the other areas that I've been working on over the last month is looking at how to split up the scenery section from the inclines, and particularly here at the back of the garage with these tunnel portals as it goes around the corner, and obviously the trains come up and down from the inclines. With this here, I've also looked at a different spacing on the catenary masts as it comes into the tunnel portals, and that's because of the curvature of the main lines here, and it will not look sort of authentic otherwise if I have a long curve in the catenary wire. So the masts here are spaced with the catenary wire as they come out the box, and then the tunnel portal kit here is from Woodland Scenics, and although it's HO gauge, it actually sits further down on the baseboards and not on the cork, so it actually reduces the height of the tunnel portal, but it leaves enough room then for these catenary wires to go through. And I've got to sort out then putting a second mast behind in the bit where you won't see through the tunnel. Eventually this area will then be built up. I've also got some retaining walls to put at the back behind the tunnel mouths, which will then go up against the back of there and back onto the buffer stops of the container depot. And there'll be a bit of a sort of merging of the retaining wall on this side with the start of an embankment, and it'll probably be a very low embankment, but there'll be some sort of trees and grass that will come down there, and I'm thinking then to obviously cover the top of this in a small sort of wood, trees, and obviously a bit of overgrown area on top of the tunnel portal. So there's lots of work to do down here, but at the moment this is as far as I've got over the past month, working on this end of the layout with cutting down the Woodland Scenics tunnel portal mouths so that I can put two together for the spacing that I require, and then start to cut up as well the retaining walls. First job hopefully over the next month is to get some colour on these using the Earth Colours kit from Woodland Scenics, and to start to bring these to life. So if we take a trip down the main line to see what else I've been adding in for the Lineside, at the very back there I've added in the Wills kit for the modern cable trunking. You need quite a lot of packs to bring this all the way down here, and feeding it then into the area down here, which is the junction for the container depot. In this area I will then have some location cabinets. I've already painted up a few, and we'll put in a nice little bit of a sort of maintenance area, probably with those location cabinets in between the access to the depot and the main lines. And then as we come down here, I've also started to paint up the point motors and put those into position for the 2 points that go into the shunt neck siding, and also the one that comes off the main line. I've got some work to do around just putting a bit of a different colour on the other point motor that I've got missing up there, so I want it the same sort of colour as the nice sort of darkish silvery grey that I've got on the point motors that I've already painted up. And then I'll also then look at getting some orange cable routes across here, and they will then come again with more cable trunking along here for all the way up to where the corner starts, basically across to, again, going down the other incline. At this end there'll probably eventually be some sort of road bridge across the top of there, but I'll come to that at a later date. The next little job around here is to get some of the other signalling in. and to start basically doing some of the Lineside features, having learnt from doing the previous layout that not to do the ballasting until you've got all of the bits and pieces in around the Lineside. So that's the bits and pieces that I'm adding in at the moment. There's much more to do here, as well as also hopefully, as I say, some signals on the way, and to basically add in hopefully over the next month. This is the latest sound loco for the layout. The Bachmann Class 90 with Freightliner livery here has some Lego Man Biffo DCC chip installed, and it's quite simple to do that in the roof compartment. It comes pre-fitted with the sound module for the speaker on board and all the rest of the PCB board fittings. So obviously there's a bit of wizardry that's probably gone on with the DCC chip and getting the pantograph to go up and down, because that is servo operated. But now let's hear some of the sounds here from the Class 90. So although it is electric sound, there are a few nice startup sounds and whilst in operation. That's all for this month's layout update. Please do leave a comment. Always appreciated to hear your thoughts. And if you haven't already done so, please do subscribe to the channel. We'll be back again at the end of next month for the August layout update. Cheers for now.